And welcome back to Cooking with MoWino. Today we're making a very fun dish that is going to simmer low and slow for a great dinner tonight. I am going to make Mo's French veal stew. Now that sounds sort of intimidating, but really veal is just like any other meat, so it shouldn't be intimidating. But cheers. Before we get started, I have almost everything prepped, but I want to tell you about this fabulous wine that I'm drinking from Lost Creek Vineyards in Virginia. This is a Vidal Blanc, and I have fallen in love with it. I mean, had one sip and bought several bottles, and it's almost becoming the summer wine of MoWino headquarters. Anyway, delicious. And we're going to cook with that, drink with it, and then enjoy it with our dinner tonight. So, what I have done is cut our veal, boneless veal, into about 1-inch chunks. I have washed it, patted it dry, and salt and peppered it. And now what I'm going to do is shake it in this bag that I have put 2 heaping tablespoons of cornstarch. That way we're going to be gluten-free. I'm going to shake this up, get some flour on my veal, and then I'm going to sear it in my Dutch oven and then bring you back in for the goodness. Cheers! Now the important thing with searing meat is to make sure you don't crowd your pans. You need to do it in batches. So this is our first batch of cornstarched veal cubes. And we're just going to simply sear them on each side, put them off to the side, and then do the second batch until we're all done. Welcome back. We did all the hard work while you were enjoying some off time. And we now have 1.5 pounds of seared veal cubes. So now is when the assembly process and the fun begins. Take a little sip for the chef. So here we have our Dutch oven that I seared the veal in avocado oil. But as I was on the 3rd batch of searing the meat, it started to get really dry in the pan, so I threw in a pat of butter. So we actually already have a good amount of butter now in the bottom of the pan. So I have here a cup of beef broth that I am using. This just happened to be what I had in my kitchen. You can basically use, I mean, obviously veal stock, chicken broth, vegetable broth, but the whole purpose here is to get all these great scrapings off the bottom of the pan. So we are going to put a little muscle into it, and it's supposed to be tough like this. So don't think that you've burnt the pan or whatever. This is what it's all about. And you'll know when you're rubbing this. Use a wooden spoon, by the way, so you don't scratch up your pans. But you'll know when you get that great bit of bits, the leftover skin and flour crumble, when all of a sudden it becomes smooth, that means you're hitting the bottom of the pan. And then you move on to the next part. And the longer this saturates with the liquid, it'll loosen up. But you definitely need to scrape the bottom of the pan. So we're going to do this for a while, because I have a lot of scrapings on this pan, because I did 3 batches of searing. And once we get that all done, I'll bring you back in. Okay, so truthfully, if we just stopped right here, this is delicious gravy, but we're not stopping right here. So I have cleaned the bottom of the pan by scraping off all of the bits, the yummy bits, I should say. And now I'm going to add my aromatics. Now the reason I'm calling this French stew, and the reason why this was inspired to cook today, is because leeks are in season. And I have here prepped, cleaned, and quartered, sliced 3 large leeks. And we're going to put them in. Now it looks like a lot, but remember, leeks are part of the onion family, and that means as they simmer, they're going to cook down quite a bit. So we're just mixing this into this broth, or gravy, or whatever you want to call it. And then I have here peeled and cut into small, I guess 1/2 inch pieces, 3 carrots. Actually, no, it was 4 carrots. 4 medium-sized carrots. Just getting this all in there. And then I have 2 cloves of garlic minced. Now, a lot of times people saute their garlic, but I have a tendency to find that a lot of dishes have burnt garlic. Garlic burns very easily, so I don't put it in the beginning. I always kind of put it in after everything's already started to get going. Okay, even though leeks are part of the onion family, I have here a cup of small cocktail onions that are frozen. So they're gonna, I'm putting them in frozen because the liquid's gonna be fine. They're left over actually from my cook oven dish that I made. Just mixing all that up. Okay, so my fresh rosemary died, the bush. I actually threw away the pot this morning. So I'm using dried rosemary, and I'm putting in a capful, which is about a tablespoon. And I'm using white pepper. I just feel like white pepper goes with French cuisine and with the veal. I think it just looks, it's a nicer complement to have the white dry pepper than the cracked black pepper. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Now we're going to let this simmer a bit on top of the stove because I want the vegetables to get a head start before I give them the yumminess and back with the veal. Cheers. Welcome back. So we have our vegetables just sort of softening a bit and stirring constantly so that they don't stick to the bottom. I just wanted to give the leeks a chance to really saturate into the drippings of this dish. So we have that in here, and now I am going to add back our seared veal and all the drippings that are on this plate. And by the way, I didn't say it before, make sure you don't put your cooked veal or meat onto the plate that had the raw meat. Cross-contamination. So this is a different plate than I used originally. I'm gonna put all this beautiful veal in. Oh gosh, this looks so good. Okay, so now I have another cup of beef broth that I have added a heaping tablespoon of Dijon mustard, and I've whisked that together. Let's put that in. Just stir that up. And now we put the beauty of our wine. This is a cup of our Vidal Blanc. Good stuff. Show it to you before I put it in the oven. Okay, here is our beautiful veal stew that we have done on top of the stove in a Dutch oven, and now we're about to put it in the oven for 90 minutes at 300 degrees, and it's going to be yummy and delicious. Put our heavy pot. And I'm going to put it in for 90 minutes, check it out, and see if it needs anything else. And then we'll go from there. Cheers. Live life, taste life, my friends.